again a warm welcome to each and everyone over here. Thank you for taking out your time to attend this event. I hope this event will be very informative for you, and I welcome our listeners. Today we are hosting the masterclass from Bangalore OutSystems User Group. So there will be three sessions for the masterclass, and this is more about how we move from O11 to ODC. So we will take step by step and discuss a few points in each session, and whoever attends all the session and be very interactive, so one lucky winner will get a chance to win a exciting prize, and also along with that one, each session we will be having the quiz. So three winners from each session will also be eligible to get the prize. So we will announce the winners and the prize at the last session of the masterclass. So it is mandatory to attend all the masterclass sessions to be eligible to win a prize. So, with that, uh, yes, I am Sri Lakshmanis. I am working as an assistant manager in KPMG India, and I am the organizer for Bangalore OutSystems User Group. So, if you need any help or any support regarding the user group, or if you have any OutSystems queries, you can reach out to me over my Gmail, and also you can connect me over LinkedIn. So, with that, I'll hand over to you, Junaid. I'll stop sharing.
Right. Thank you so much, Shri. Hey, hi everyone. This is Junaid. I have over 18 years of experience in IT industry, and I have been working in OutSystems for almost more than 7 years now. So it's a pleasure to meet you all and share my learnings. So great opportunity for all of us to share and learn. Um, Really appreciate you joining us for this session on a weekday. Usually the weekdays are very busy. I can understand, but yeah. So let's start. Let me first. So is it okay, Shri? I mean, I start sharing my screen.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
please.
Uh, and excuse me for the background noise on my side. Although I'm in office, but there is some construction work going on. Can you all see my screen?
Yes, it is visible. And with the background noise, Junaid, I request you to be a bit louder so that your
Sure.
voice will be audible. Yeah.
Yep. Uh, right. So while I'll be sharing, I won't have access to chat or see any notifications. So, Shri Lakshmi, if you notice anybody have any question or there are any issues from my side, please let me know. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. So we will be having the Q&A session at the end, and I have started the Q&A chat. Don't hesitate to put your questions in the Q&A section. Thank you. Yes, Junaid.
All right. Thank you so much. So let's start. Today's session is about migrating applications from O11 to ODC platform. This has been hot topic for quite a while. ODC, we all know, we have heard about it a lot. We have talked about it a lot. So people do have a fairly good idea about what is ODC, how things work in ODC. I believe, yeah. I mean, I think Bangalore user group has already done so many sessions on ODC, explaining those terminologies and the working of the platform. So now the interesting part about migration. Even about migration, if you go to internet and try to find some articles explaining the migration, so it just tells things which are like very basic ones. What are the at a very high level the things are explained, yeah. But you really experience what it really takes to migrate an application from O11 to ODC when you really do it by yourself. So fortunately, I had the opportunity to work on one of the applications where we are migrating O11 application to ODC. So I'm going to share my experiences, and so let's start. And first, I would like to brief you on. Okay, this is a bit out of order. So first, we are going to talk about. So we will start from the second point. We will go over some of the guidelines from OutSystems on how to perform the migration. Then we will look at the some how to prepare our applications for migration, and we will then talk about the application that I worked on and how we tackled the migration process there. Yeah. Uh, so talking about the guidelines. So usually, if you go to OutSystems website, in all the documentation that you see there, we find four steps there, which is like planning the migration, preparing for the migration, executing the migration, and then testing the things. Yeah. Based on our experience, I have tried to I've tried to modify those guidelines to suit our scenario. So planning part of obviously, I mean, and then believe me, this is the most important part of any migration. It's not just about O11 to ODC. I mean, any migration you do for moving one application from one platform to another, planning is most important. I've seen people posting on the forum, or there have been instances where people reached out to me asking about, like, I want to migrate the application. How do I do it? So it's not so straightforward, really. I mean, it takes a lot of analysis, lot of preparation, and you have to be very thorough with your planning before you even start migrating the application. Um, so I mean, yeah, I mean, I'm going to emphasize a lot on these steps because I have experienced that. Yeah. Otherwise, we end up into situations where the things are out of control, and it's really difficult to manage the efforts and also to ensure that the transition is happening smoothly. So if we talk about planning the migration, first of all, we need to have a perfect assessment of all the applications and components that exist in our ecosystem. Yeah. So it's not just like, okay, I have um, three or four applications. Some are reactive, some are traditional. No, that is not enough. I mean, we need to have thorough understanding of, okay, how many applications are there, how many are reactive, how many are traditional, do they interact with each other, how many forge components we have, yeah, and then how many integrations exist, internal as well as external, how much of concepts, the different concepts that we are using. For instance, like BPT, do we have BPT in our ecosystem? Do we have shared roles in our ecosystem? So everything. I mean, there has to be a thorough analysis of what all exists in our O11 ecosystem. Yeah. So that is the first part of it. The second is we need to decide on, okay, which strategy we want to go with. Is it one shot migration or coexistence? So if for those who are not aware about like what is one shot and what is coexistence, one shot is basically migrating everything in one shot from O11 to ODC. And for that, OutSystems is working on a migration toolkit, which was expected to be out in November last year, but that did not happen, and it is not out yet. Yeah. So that is one shot migration. But even this migration toolkit was, if you read the documentation available, it is suggested that use the migration toolkit only when your application size is up to 300 application objects. Yeah. So usually that is not the case with large enterprises. The application objects are much more than that, and one shot migration is not a possibility because uh, you cannot. just start working on all the applications in together and put all the effort, all the time, and all the team members working on that migration part, and yeah, and it is kind of unmanageable. um, the coexistence approach is where you know where you want to go, you plan for it, but then you do the migration in phases. So let's say I have 100 applications in my ecosystem. I would pick two or three applications and then start working on them, migrate them, and then for a while they will be on ODC, and then rest of the 90s and 95, 97 applications would still be on O11. And I have to ensure that when I release this ODC application, the migrated applications, the end-to-end process, the business process should not be broken, users should not be impacted a lot. So that's the strategy which we call as coexistence, and then we go on migrating. So five applications first and maybe three applications later, and then we continue this process until we have migrated all the applications from O11 to ODC. So that is the coexistence approach, yeah? And this is the one which I believe is going to be the case with most of us who are working for different customers, because they already have a lot of applications in O11. One shot is going to be applicable only for those who are starting new or have recently started into OutSystems. Yeah. Then the next part is, okay, if we are going with coexistence, then what is going to be the sequence of application that we are going to migrate? Yeah, because that is very important. We need to decide the sequence based on, there could be a lot of factors, right? I mean, what is business expecting? What is the bandwidth available in our team? What kind of capabilities are available in our team? Are we going to pick up the simple applications for migration first, or are we going to pick up the complicated ones? There are a lot of factors to decide that. Then the next step is to thoroughly analyze the impact of migration on business processes and the end users. This is very, very important, yeah, because business processes, whatever strategy we adopt, it should not impact the business processes. End users should not experience drastic changes in the way they use applications. Yeah. And then obviously we have to come up with a strategy which has none or minimal impact on the business as well as the end users. So we have to consider all these points while planning the migration. I mean, this is not the, I would not say this is an exhaustive list. I mean, you might have to consider a lot many other factors during your planning phase. So I cannot put in every possible point here, but this is just the points which are touching almost every area at a high level. So do as much diligence as possible when you're planning the migration. Again, design the architecture blueprint. Now, like I told you before, right? So people reach out and ask, okay, I want to start migration. Migration is not like you pick up just one application and say, okay, I start creating the code in ODC for that application. It's not like that. I have to be ready with the blueprint for the entire ecosystem. So that is the best way to do it, because otherwise what happens, we pick up few applications, migrate them, and then we realize, okay, I mean, there are, when we are migrating rest of the applications, we realize that the architecture which we have now on ODC for those migrated application, it is not fitting the entire set of applications. Then again we have to do rework for even for the migrated application. So try to avoid that totally. And then map O11 apps to ODC assets. This is going to be involved in your architecture blueprint. So it will, mapping would be the essential activity that you would perform there. And finally, estimate the effort required for the code refactoring and the migration. So this obviously is needed, yeah, because customer obviously would ask you, you want to perform the migration, but then how much time you need. Uh, and so migrating the logic and the components is not the only thing. Yeah, obviously we have to migrate the data as well. Now, this is another crucial area which needs planning. Yeah. So we need to have a proper data model designed, which is aligned with our architecture that we are planning to finally have in ODC environment. Yeah. So the data model, I'm not saying that you have to have every minute detail of your data model, the new data model, or maybe if you are trying to replicate the same data model, but still have in mind, we need to be considerate about, okay, this is the data model which I'm going to have in ODC platform eventually. If the data model is changing, then we need to identify the entities which are the getting impacted. Again, the major ones. Yeah. So I know at the during the planning stage, we cannot come up with every attribute that is going to be impacted, but at least on a high level, we know what concepts are changing, which entities need to be broken down or to be clubbed, whatever. So we need to be aware about that. And then most of the times, you would notice in our O11 applications, we have SQL queries written, right? So those SQL queries, because they are compatible with SQL Server or Oracle, the underlying database. But when we move on to ODC, the database is different. Yeah, this or Aurora PostgreSQL. So that has some differences in syntax. So these queries are not going to work as is. These also need to be refactored when we move them. So again, identify the major ones, which I mean, like the ones which are very huge or involves complex logic. So identify them as well. And then obviously, when we are going to change the data model, this is going to have impact on certain processes, certain components. So we need to analyze that impact as well. And obviously, we need to estimate the effort involved for making all these data model refactoring and SQL queries, adjustments, and whatever. So we need to plan the estimate the effort for that work. Then prepare for the migration. This part, it's mostly the guidelines available in OutSystems documentation, but we are going to look into it in a while in the upcoming slides in detail. So this is mostly about once you have the blueprint, once you have estimated the work, now what changes then you need to make in your O11 applications so that they are the components, the integrations, the data model, the queries are compatible to ODC environment. So that is majorly going to be the part of preparation for a migration. Yeah. So we are going to discuss this a bit more in detail in the upcoming slides. Then the next step obviously is to perform the migration from O11 to ODC. So this so I mean, one part is preparation and one part is migration itself. I will explain in our scenario what we did. We combined the two steps. So we combined preparation and migration together for various reasons, and it helped us actually. So I'm going to explain when I come to the scenario, the real project scenario, which we took for our migration work. So we will look at that as well, how the code migration was taken care of. And then obviously the data migration part. So we have to execute that, which means you obviously, because your applications which exist in O11, they are live, they are in production. There is a lot of data, transactional data and master data, which resides there in these applications. Now once you have completed once you are prepared for the data for code migration and build the logic in ODC to support those components or applications, then you have to migrate the data as well, so that the applications in ODC environment are ready to go on production, and there is no loss of data for end users. Yeah, so this part where I said that how to prepare for O11 application architecture thing. So this is the preparation part. Let's see what it has. Um, so It tells us to adopt the architecture canvas best practices. I believe you are all familiar with architecture canvas. So there are three layers: end user, core, and foundation. And then we have to ensure that our applications, modules, as well as domains are following the architecture canvas rules. So this one is very crucial because this is really going to help you in preparing a proper blueprint for your ODC ecosystem, the architecture blueprint. Because when you have the applications arranged properly on architecture canvas, then you know, like, who is the producer, who is the consumer, what are the supporting components. So then it becomes easier for you to uh, mm, map your applications to proper application or a library in ODC. And then in terms of concept as well. So, like, I mean, you would, and there is a concept of domains. Yeah. So, domains, I don't know how many of you know about those, but domains are again very important because what happens? Uh, so if you have gone through the how do we design the applications in ODC. If you've gone through, if you were part of any of those sessions, then you would know that domains are the ones which actually kind of map to the bounded context concept. So bounded context means a set of applications which are serving a same business area. So similarly, the concept of domain exists in O11. So if you go to discovery tool, you can categorize your applications into domains. So, for instance, in our scenario, there were uh, five or six domains which were there. Um, so what we did, each domain is actually serving a specific business area, and then it becomes a collection of all those applications which are exposing those functionalities and features to support that business area. So that is very important. I mean, if that does not exist, then believe me, it's going to be a really challenging job for anybody to map the assets to ODC, because it's like we are already into a mess if we don't have domains and architecture canvas compatibility in our ecosystem. Then it's already a mess on O11. Now when we move to ODC with the same mess without fixing it, we are carrying forward the mess to ODC, and we are going to see problems there. So I always tell my colleagues to use this migration activity as an opportunity to fix the technical debts that exist in our ecosystem today. So, because uh, we all know, right? I mean, it's not so easy to get customer pay for fixing the technical debts because they don't see any value in that. They don't see any business value in that. And most of the times, there are certain technical debts like monolith module. Yeah, so they take a lot of time to get fixed. It's not just a days or weeks time that is needed. It takes at times several weeks, yeah, to do that. So architecture canvas, it's very very important. Make sure that your applications are organized are following the architecture canvas rules, and they are very well organized. And in case if you are not able to, because I mean, if you have not been following it till date, then obviously when you put your applications into canvas, assign them different layers, then you are going to notice a lot of violations. So I know it's not possible to fix all of them, but there are some of them which doesn't require much effort. So please try to minimize the technical debt with respect to the architecture canvas. Yeah, before we start even planning for the application migration to ODC. Uh, okay, yeah. So here we are. So domain-driven architecture. I already explained how important domains are. So Domains are the, I mean, this is really very important, and you would notice that even the OutSystems documentation, which is available on the website, it emphasizes a lot on domain-driven architecture, mapping the domains, and so on. So this is really very important because it kind of allows you to segregate the applications properly, and when you segregate them you realize, okay, because again the same rules apply to domains as well, like we have in applications and modules. So if applications which belong to same domain, they can still interact with each other through server actions, so that is kind of a liberty within a domain. But if they belong to two different domains, then it's a totally forbidden. So you have to have a proper loose coupling between your domains. So inter-domain communication has to be totally loosely coupled. Intra-domain is still fine to have some tight coupling there, but obviously we have to have reasons for that. But domain driven architecture really helps a lot to to come up with a loosely coupled architecture, and which finally is going to be required in ODC, right? Because in ODC again we have these applications and libraries. An application cannot have a strong dependency with another application, we all know that, right? So if you have tight coupling among most of your applications, then imagine what will we end up into, right? I mean, we will have a huge just one application with a huge collection of logic from all the different domains. So that's not we want, right? So it is a must to have a proper domain driven architecture for our O11 applications. Then obviously we need to validate our architecture. So there are ways to do it. We know this discovery tool. Discovery tool clearly tells us what are the problems with our architecture, and if there are, and most of the times. So I remember when we took over a project from other vendor. There were so many violations on the architecture canvas, as well as obviously on discovery. Then it did not. So I mean, so let's say there were 300 violations, then to come down to 100, it was not a challenging job. It was easier, a lot easier to come down to a number of 200, 100. But then from 100 onwards, it became challenging. So uh, in your case, if you are following architecture canvas, a domain driven architecture, great. But in case if you are not, try to minimize that as much as possible. Yeah, because anyways, I mean, this rework of fixing that technical debt, we have to do either now, uh, or when we move to ODC and we realize, okay, there is set of only 2 3 applications which contain all our O11 applications. Then eventually we will have to do that refactoring sometime in future. So it's better we do it now, because otherwise we lose benefits of microservice architecture, right? Because other then we end up in having monolith services, and one application combining everything. We lose team independence, we lose on so many benefits which is actually core of ODC platform. Yeah. Uh, so, um, like I said, mapping of O11 domains to ODC apps and libraries. So once you have the domains, it becomes a lot easier to map your domains to ODC applications and libraries. So there is again detailed documentation available about how to perform. There are guidelines on how to perform mapping of domains to ODC application or a library. It's not part of this presentation, but if you want to take a look, you can go to the website anytime. So these domains have to be. So I mean, it helps. It really helps us to identify. Okay, this application, is it going to be this O11 application? Is it going to be an application, or is it going to be a library? Now, or this application, is it going to be a reusable application, kind of like serving multiple applications, or is it going to be an independent one? So all that is becomes really easy when we have the domains in place. So we just have to then perform the mapping between our domains and then the applications inside to ODC applications or ODC libraries. So there is a concept of vertical domains and horizontal domains. So vertical domains are usually the ones which serve a specific purpose, a specific business area, whereas the horizontal domains are usually the ones which serve more than one business areas. Yeah. Um, then obviously once we know that okay, um, our applications are not compliant with architecture canvas, we don't have a domain driven architecture, then obviously we have to do refactoring to ensure that we are following all the architecture best practices in O11 to ensure that we have a perfectly domain driven architecture. So perfectly is not a good word because nothing is perfect. So I know we cannot reach to a level of zero violations on architecture canvas, but try to get as close as possible. Yeah? And I would say push a little more to minimize it as much possible, because otherwise it's going to be a pain and we will carry over that pain to ODC platform as well. So refactorings, like we know, right? I mean, if there are dependencies between any two applications and they are sharing server actions with each other, replace those server actions with service actions or introduce APIs. Um, don't have the strong dependencies on entities. Weak dependencies are fine. So yeah, try to keep the architecture loosely coupled. So that takes effort, that takes thinking, a lot of brainstorming, because it impacts a lot of things. But this is going to eventually benefit us. Um, and then once we have the applications and library sorted out, then it gets easier. Yeah. So then we come to entities, the site properties, the roles, and so on. So those are areas where again there are guidelines from ODC on how to achieve those. There are certain concepts which are not applicable in O11, for instance BPT. Yeah. But there are workarounds, and for now, OutSystems is telling us to hold on to the concepts which are not supported, because they are. I mean, ODC is still something which where OutSystems is aggressively working on. So there we are expecting more improvements and more support for O11 features in future. But yeah, there are workarounds available. We cannot achieve everything as we were doing in O11, but uh, so I mean, it's like if something is not available, we have to obviously find a workaround, and we engineers are very good at that, right? So finding workarounds. So yeah, so I mean, when it comes to refactoring, these are certain areas like roles, structure, entities, and site properties. Yeah, site properties are not there, so there are settings and so on. Extensions, forge components, again, yeah, they are not. So I mean, we cannot directly use a O11 component in ODC. We have to have either a replacement for it in ODC supporting the ODC platform, or we have to do something else to fill in for those forge components or extensions. Um, then there are certain code patterns I already explained, right? I mean, so in the SOAP, BPT is not there. SOAP is also not supported, so we have to fully rely on REST APIs, which I believe is the case with most of the developments that happen today. SOAP is rarely used; it's mostly the API REST APIs. So that I don't see as a challenge most of the times. BPTs, yeah, there are applications which are using BPTs for asynchronous jobs. Um, so yeah, I mean, like I said, I mean, for now, OutSystems is not telling us to just find a workaround for BPT. We have to, for now, manage with there is a concept of workflows, right? So for now, if we can manage with workflows, that's fine. But yeah, they are working on the BPT thing. Yeah. Uh, okay. Now coming to the real project example. So uh, I will give you a brief overview of what is this system that we had, what were the components involved, and what strategy we took. Yeah. So this is a kind of application where mm, the farmers or the producers, we call them producers, they are the ones who are working in the farms. Yeah, and then they have to follow certain guidelines to make sure that their work is eco-friendly and they are not abusing the nature in any way. And also the this entire the enterprise for which for whom we work for, they ensure that the whatever whatever is produced by the farmers, it then goes through a chain, right? A supply chain. So farmers would produce something, then they would sell it to somebody else, and then that buyer is going to do some processing on top of it. Let's say, so a farmer is producing tea, and then it is passed on to a supplier who is actually into business of manufacturing different tea products. So he would do further processing on the tea, raw tea that they got from the producer, and then that way they go on the uh, this selling and buying process goes on uh, indefinitely. Yeah. So in there are different processing happening at different levels. So the application, this ecosystem also ensures that these producers do get paid properly for the work they are doing, and if they are compliant to the environment friendly guidelines, then they also get some bonus for that. Yeah. So uh, um, that's kind of a business background about the ecosystem that we had. These OutSystems applications were again, so there were some traditional applications and then there were reactive applications as well. They were classified into business domains, so which was a good thing about our our customer. I mean, so when we got the applications handed over from a different vendor, we push the customer to follow all the architecture canvas rules, domain driven architecture and everything. So fortunately, we are not zero on those violations. So there are still violations, but those are kind of agreed with customer, and because they required lot of effort or investment to handle those, and they were not harming us in any way. So it was not zero, but it was obviously below 50 or something. Yeah. So which was kind of satisfactory at a satisfactory level. Yeah. Then these domains. So we have, like I said, I think we have 5 or 6 domains. We are going to look at those domains as well. Now each domain was collection of different applications. We all know, right? OutSystem applications, and then there were modules inside. And then so there were vertical domains and there were horizontal domains as well. So vertical ones were the ones which were serving the specific business area, and then there were horizontal domains which were like set of reusable utilities, but most of them were business agnostic. Yeah. And and so like I already mentioned, we had a low technical debt on architecture canvas, to a satisfactory level. Uh, so it was not a problem. But then there were still certain things which we thought could be a challenge. Although OutSystems AI mentor or Discovery was not complaining about it, but uh, customer wanted to revamp certain applications or such a way that they are not very closely coupled with each other. So we are going to look at actually this. The rest of these slides are going to focus on that specific component, because obviously in one session it's not possible to explain you how we handled each application. So I picked up one application, one domain, and then how we migrated that one. So inherent technical debt is that one which, yeah, which was not flagged by AI mentor or discovery, but it was something which was known to us, and it we wanted to refactor it for various reasons, technical as well as business. So here are the domains. Now the domains, first is enablement, second is compliance, third is tracking, and then there is finance. Enablement is more of a domain where we have a set of applications which are for end users who are not yet ready to follow all the guidelines set up by the organization. But so for them, there were certain set of applications to collect the information from them, and do a kind of inspection on their fields, and then provide a feedback to them, like how they can improve. Yeah. Or they are even they are they even potential candidates for to be compliant with the organization standards or not. So that is a set of applications which comes under enablement. Then compliance obviously was about the set of applications where we collect the information from the producers and the supply chain actors, and then we evaluate them. Yeah, and then if they comply with the standards of the organization, then certificate, then a license is issued to them. Yeah. Tracking is then, so once they are licensed with the organization, they are tracked on their activities. So every trade they perform, they have to report it into a set of applications which falls under the tracking domain. And finally comes the finance part, where organization is charging all these players, the producers and the supply chain actors, for the services they are providing. Because obviously, once they are compliant to the organization standards, they have a benefits on their business. They can sell their products for a better price because they have a logo on their products. So because of that, I mean, they have to pay some amount to the organization. And this is also to track the payments which are happening to the producers by the buyers, to follow the good practices here. So these were the four domains, and then we have a horizontal domain, foundation utilities, which are mainly like sending out emails, some kind of audit logs, some kind of communication with S3 bucket. So those kind of utilities which are business agnostic. They don't have any business involved. They are just sitting there to be used by any vertical, any business domain. Yeah. And then finally we have a horizontal domain for integrations as well. So integrations with third parties, like they were sending finance information to NetSuite, and then there was integration with geodata APIs. So a lot of integrations which were there. Again, they were all part of the integrations domain. Uh, so I was telling you about, like, so I mean, obviously we cannot cover all the applications in the session. So what I did, I picked up one application, and this was actually the application which was picked up first to be migrated to ODC platform. So in this one, we did not have any. So this was just, this entire thing was just one application. Yeah. So there were different modules inside, like e spaces. But the problem was the logic was segregated into modules, but then they were all using same database module. So this was the problem. So then database module was growing like anything, and they were all kind of tightly coupled with each other because of this one data model. Because if I have to deploy the data collection module, then again I have to take all the entities to be deployed to the next environment, yeah, to QA and production and so on. So that was the case everywhere, and because they were all sitting in same module, uh, the developers they tend to create strong dependencies between the data model of each module. So that way it was all intertwined, and it was kind of a work which we were not allowed to pick up. Because I mean, when we go and tell customer that okay, this is something you want to fix, customer was not very happy about investing into this work, yeah. But so when it came to this migration work, so obviously the first thing that strikes us is like, okay, these are the technical debts which we, so use this opportunity to fix these technical debts. And that was one reason for picking up this module, yeah. So this is how it looked like when it was in O11. So now the scenario is, the CTO from the customer side, he was very much interested in to going to ODC platform because it is trending, and OutSystem is aggressively pushing for it, and there are so many benefits and features available in the platform. So CTO wanted us to do that. Customer told us that okay, whatever you want to do, but make sure that the business is not impacted. And I told you, right, I mean, so planning part needs to make sure that we don't impact the business processes should not be broken for whatever work we do, yeah. And then the business teams were not seeing any value in this migration, so this was a negative side, yeah. So CTO is telling us to perform the migration, he is interested in that, but business is not supporting the idea because they are not seeing any value. For them, it's okay. I mean, I have these applications today, and when you migrate them to ODC, again, I will have the same applications. Then why do I pay for that? Because business is finally the sponsor for every work we do, right? So they were not seeing any value in the migration. And obviously, customers, like other customers, the customer was not interested in fixing the technical debts because we were to a certain satisfactory level already. So they were not seeing any pain areas because of whatever technical debts were sitting there. So they were not very much keen on fixing those. Yeah. So this was the situation that we had initially. So then we started planning the migration. So I mean, there was, I mean, migration had to happen, but then we were also responsible to satisfy all the parties. Uh, so we started the planning part. So like I told you, so these are high level statistics of like how many domains we had, the applications. Actually, we had lot more than 27 applications. So these numbers are not good. Forge components, yeah, there were roughly more than 20 Forge components. Third party integrations were there as well, a good number of them. So these are the high level statistics. So this is assessment. I mean, the title of the slide is assessment results, but the assessment was not only this much. This is just a numbers I am presenting here, but it was a lot more than that. Obviously, because of confidentiality reasons, I cannot share all those details here. But ideally, assessment should be much more detailed when you do it. It has to have all the information about all the applications, all the domains, components you are using, impact on those components when you perform the migration, impact on the third party integrations. So planning has to include everything. Yeah, the assessment has to be done on each and every part of or element of the ecosystem. So next comes the approach to take, like, okay, whether you want to go with one shot migration or coexistence. So obviously, one shot migration was not the option for us because we have lot many AOs. I think we have more than 1200 AOs in our ecosystem. So it was not an option. Coexistence was the approach that you wanted to pick up. Uh, so coexistence, but even with the coexistence, we knew that we are going to face challenges because uh, coexistence is not like because even with domains, I cannot do like pick one domain and move it entirely to ODC, right? Because there has to be some deliverable as well. I mean, I cannot tell customer that okay, I am going to work on migration for next 6 months and we meet after 6 months. They want to see the results after every sprint, right? So uh, it was not possible to move the one domain altogether, and then we at the same time we had to continue to deliver on other business enhancements, right? So team was working on those as well, other features and enhancements in O11 while we were performing this migration. So there were challenges, and but yeah, I mean we had to address those regardless. So we picked up the coexistence approach for our migration work. Um, now, mm, so when we plan the migration, we have to. The next step was to come up with the architecture blueprint, like how it is going to look like in ODC. Yeah. So here again, this is not the real diagram, real blueprint of what we had in our scenario. So this is just some key areas that I have tried to put in here. So, like I told you, there were four domains, right? So the domains then were broken down to further modularize, make our architecture more modular. So one was onboarding. Onboarding has the smaller applications. So these were applications on their own in O11. Yeah? So we combined them into one box. Is like they could belong to one application. Similarly, in enablement, there was an application for survey, and then there was an application for assessment, and then in data collection, and then compliance, tracking, and finance. So these were the different applications that we identified for our domain applications sitting in different domains. But so this one here we clubbed the multiple applications into one ODC application. But this is like a uh, this is the approach just we took because we wanted to do it this way. But it's perfectly fine if you want to split each of those applications into different in one application on ODC. Yeah. And then the libraries that we came up with were so theme, and then the utilities, and then the one for integrations. So this was kind of a snapshot of the blueprint that we had. It does not, like I said, I mean, it does not include everything really that we had in our scenario, and I cannot share that for obvious reasons. Uh, so I mean, the one helped and everything is fine, but then which application to pick up first, and what strategy we take for our migration? So obviously, business has to be the first. Business first is the strategy. So what we did, we picked up the application which was the core application. So compliance application was the core application which was actually doing the. So if you remember the different modules there, it was collecting data, and then there was a module for processing the data, and then there was a module for assessment, and then there was a module for finance part. So we picked up that application for our for the first one to be moved. Now, how do we make business happy about this migration? So, what we did, business always wanted us to segregate or centralize the registration. The problem was that in O11, almost every domain had a registration module. So the set of users were also different for each domain. So, but business wanted us to centralize the registration part because if we look at the customer's business, the same user who is a potential user, a potential customer to get the license for from the customer is going to flow through all the different domains. So there is no point in having users for each domain, and hence we don't need a separate registration for each domain. So we picked up that as a plus point where to make business happy, that okay, we with this migration we are going to segregate the registration part, and also we are going to make it more modular. Yeah, and then we would also work on the so while we are in anyways we are moving the code from O11 to ODC. So it was also an opportunity for us to make the application more usable and more user friendly. So the data collection part, especially in this module, was bit kind of not so friendly to the user. So we wanted to fix that as well. So these were certain factors which we considered to make sure that the business sees value in the work that we are doing. So that is a key thing. Yeah, I mean, we should always come up with something which makes business happy, otherwise they won't sponsor our work. So that was the first strategy we decided this here. So and for this one we picked up that compliance application. So I showed you that application. Yeah, so it has those different modules. So that was the application we picked up first for migration. And then obviously the technical part of the strategy was to fix certain technical debts. So most of the times the technical debts that we happen to see in our applications is that monolith module, non-scalable architecture, low configurability, and so on. So in this application as well, we had sort of similar problems. So obviously, the database module was becoming a monolith because it contained entities for all the other modules, and the usability was a challenge. So those were the two areas which were the factors in this application. Then comes the estimation. So estimation has to be very detailed again, because see, we are moving to a totally different environment and we don't know what challenges we are going to stumble into. So we have to make sure that we fix all those challenges, and we consider every area of migration work so that our estimates are more accurate. Yeah, so we have to consider the refactoring work, development and replacement of forge component. This is going to be the case with most of the organizations attempting to migrate to ODC, because there is I mean, there are forge components available but not everything. Yeah, so at times it might happen that we find a compatible forge component, but then in our case it was like kind of 50-50 things. So we find some forge components, but then for others we had to find the workarounds. And integrations, obviously, so we have to, because the structure is changing, yeah, in the ODC platform, so the things are going to be reorganized. So the integrations, obviously, we have to make sure that they are also considered in our estimation, whatever adjustments we need to make there. So these are the key factors for the migration work. But I mean, this is again not the exhaustive list. Think of as many items as possible, because estimates need to be really very accurate. Yeah, and then similarly for the data migration, so data migration work mainly did involve, like, okay, are we going to use a new data model? So in our case it was not a new data model, but we had to break down the existing data model to make sure that the tight coupling between the data model for different modules goes away. So we had to break down our data model, and then obviously when we are following this coexistence approach, um, the two environments need to exchange the data. That is, O11 and ODC need to exchange the data, because eventually they are all, I mean, all the applications are serving to one business process, right? So the business process has to continue working as before, which means the data exchange has to happen. So we have to figure out the way for exchanging of the information between O11 and ODC platform as well with the coexistence approach. And then obviously refactoring of the SQL queries. And the biggest one is the migration of data from one platform to another. Yeah. So consider all these for the data migration work. And obviously the estimation for the data migration depends on all those activities that we have seen in the previous slide. Yeah. Now, so application, the next part is application refactoring. Yeah. So this is how the application looked like initially. Yeah. So it was all different modules. Logic was in different modules. The database was sitting in just one, and it had some strong dependencies in between the data models. So this is how it was. The improvements that we wanted to bring in with this refactoring was that we wanted to centralize the registration module. Yeah, we wanted to make the screens more user friendly. We wanted to simplify the data collection part. Yeah, because this was kind of messy earlier in O11, and we also wanted to improve the usability of the application. Uh, Technical side. So, like I said, I mean, we wanted to break down the big application into smaller, different modules, and then we wanted to also break down the data model. So, finally, this is how this that compliance application would look like. So, the registration part would stay in O11. There is a reason for that. Yeah. So like I in the previous slide I shared that we wanted to centralize the registration part, which meant that the registration module has to still stay in O11 because the majority of applications are still in O11, right? So if you want all of them to use the same registration module, then it's wise to keep it in O11 for now until all those dependent applications are migrated to ODC. So we kept the registration, we splitted out the registration module and we kept it in O11 itself. And then in ODC, we segregated the data model. We want to segregate the data model for each module. So this is how the final design would look like. Uh, Now application refactoring. So this is another interesting area where do we want to so there is a preparation part, if you remember, right? So preparation means you have to do all the preparation in O11 to ensure that you are ready to migrate the applications to ODC. So in our case, because our technical debt on architecture canvas and in AI Mentor Studio was low, uh, we had the opportunity to skip this step of doing the preparation in O11. Because if I was doing this refactoring in O11, then I would have to test out that refactoring as well, right? And then when I move the logic to ODC, then again it's all new logic, right? So I mean, not new logic, but it's all organized in a different way in ODC. So when I move to ODC, I have to again do the testing on my ODC applications. So I wanted to save that effort of testing twice the changes. Yeah. So what we did, we started moving the code. I mean, so no preparation here in O11. Just start migrating the pieces to ODC based on the blueprint that we had identified, and then the modules I had shown you, right? So we started moving things directly into ODC without doing any code changes or refactoring in O11 environment. Yeah. So this and this and obviously when we are doing testing in O11, it does not totally ensure that the things are going to work as is in ODC because it's a different setup, different database. Yeah. So and different technology being used there. So um, we did not want to be relying on O11 testing, and then obviously we would have to do testing ODC, and we wanted to avoid this duplicate testing. Obviously, anyways, when we go to ODC, we have to make a lot of other changes. We have to change the SQL queries. We have to connect to different Forge components, and we have to do other utilities as well. So we do not want to do this rework on ODC after doing it on O11 already. So we are decided to do all the changes directly in ODC platform. Yeah. And please note that we were able to do this because we did not have a very high technical debt in architecture canvas and AI mentor studio. Then reusing of the elements. So obviously we did when we moved to ODC and followed the blueprint of the architecture, we had to segregate the things, but then still the elements had to be reused between applications and libraries. So for that, we did. There were screens which were like shared between applications and server service actions, client actions, and so on. So this is all. And then another part was that when we, so you might have noticed when you try to copy and paste the elements from one O11 environment to another O11 environment, it does not allow, OutSystem doesn't allow you to do that. But with ODC, for now, they are allowing to do it. So when you try to copy paste the things from O11 to ODC, you can actually do that. So I think OutSystem is allowing it because they want us to migrate things and don't want us to get into all that intellectual property unlocking and all that. So because of that, it was a lot easier for us to just copy and paste the things into ODC. And obviously when your applications are in reactive framework, it is straightforward. Yeah, so you have to just copy and paste the things into ODC platform. And then reusing of elements. So there are certain elements which are business agnostic. Yeah, so for instance, there are certain reusable patterns, certain blocks. So those as well, we were able to copy and paste there. But then, sorry for that. So we were able to copy and paste the reusable elements as well. And for these elements, what we did, we, because they did not involve a lot of business, we created like copies of those elements. Like obviously we needed the theme, we needed certain blocks. So because this application was sitting on O11 right earlier, so it was reusing elements of it's a compliance application, and then the other domains, there was some reuse between those applications in terms of patterns and blocks and so on. So everything, so all those kind of elements which were business agnostic, we migrated them to ODC. Not migrated actually, so we created a copy of those in ODC because eventually we will need those. And since those were business agnostic, it was safe to replicate them in ODC environment. Yeah. Um, so again, replicating the elements in ODC, we have to ensure that it does not involve a lot of investment of on in terms of effort and time. If they are simple and straightforward, do them. Otherwise, you can plan for it later as well. Yeah, but then you have to have something in ODC environment to support those business agnostic elements. Yeah. Then so replicating, it depends on investment of time. And then obviously if for any reason you are not able to replicate the component to ODC, then there are we have to figure out the ways to establish communication between ODC applications and the O11 components. So it could be through APIs, it could be um, exposing the database, it could be, yeah, there are different ways to do it. Yeah, so if we are not replicating the elements, then we have to figure out ways to achieve that. Then reusing of business driven elements. So here again, so for these ones, we decided to keep them on the O11 side because they were being used by, they did involve business, and we did not want to impact any applications on O11. So then we I mean, depending on the element, we decided to either exchange the information through APIs, through import export automation, or by exposing the entities. So exposing the entities is another interesting thing. I will tell you about that in a bit. And then roles, obviously. So for roles, we had the we we put the common roles in one application, and then shared that across multiple applications in cases where they were applicable to one or more application. And for the roles which were specific to one application, we kept them in the same application. And you would know, right? So now earlier roles were, we did not have the option to keep the roles public in ODC, but now that is allowed. And then for module communication, we did it through service actions, yeah, and then for entities where the data were not of business was not involved, we simply expose the entities as read only. And then user management. So obviously, ODC requires its own user accounts, and O11 requires its own user accounts. So we had to ensure that there is some mapping between the user account. So for a single user, so for me, if I want to create an account, so there has to be an account in O11 as well in ODC. Then somewhere we need to maintain a mapping between O11 and ODC accounts. So we manage that through extended entities, yeah, mapping between the O11 and ODC accounts. Now the challenges, in terms of challenges, so the first one was that because now we know registration module was sitting in O11, and then rest of the modules we are moving to ODC, and then there were other components as well which we wanted to communicate with. So for that to happen, what we did, it was always not possible to achieve it through REST APIs, because they deal with not so much of data, and at times we had to do the joins with entities between two platforms. So for that, what we did, we exposed the O11 database to ODC platform. So we added O11 database to ODC platform as an external database, and through that, then we were able to access all the entities and everything. Yeah. So that's the approach we took, and then uh, in certain cases we use the APIs as well. But a majority of our challenges were addressed by exposing the O11 database to ODC as an external database. Yeah. And then the next one was the Forge components. So for certain Forge components, there were replacements available. The ODC compatible version was there. For some, we developed our own components, and in certain cases where we really did not want to invest time on to developing a new Forge component, what we did, we leveraged the Forge components which were already available in O11. So we would send the input to those Forge components through APIs, and then we would get back the response through APIs again. So that was kind of a workaround we did. I know it's not the best way to do it, but then in certain situations, yeah, we have to handle things that way. So that was the another major challenge that we faced, and we managed it through a kind of a not very good workaround, but yeah, somehow it was managed. And then it, this one's not in a challenge actually. So it's titled wrongly, but there were, I mean, obviously our application involves a lot of data collection activities. So for that, we had to perform the bulk. We had to use that bulk insert Forge component earlier, but with ODC now they have the bulk insert operation is one of the CRUD operation on the entities available by default. So that was the feature that we used for performing the bulk insert into entities, and which really helped a lot in our migration work. So with that, Yep, I think I've covered what I wanted to share. Uh, I know there is this is I mean the session one session is not enough to cover everything, but I tried to cover as much as possible. I hope you guys enjoyed the session and found it productive. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, Chanan. With that, we have many questions in the Q&A section. So, would you like to address?
Oh, sure, let me go there.
Yeah. Followed by that, we will have the quiz. So maybe you can pick the topmost questions and you can address them. And rest, we can ask them to reach out to you for further clarifications.
Sure. So first one is, can we be able to migrate application from traditional to reactive? No. So traditional applications have to be converted into reactive first, and then you can migrate. Now this is again up to you. So like in our case, what we did, I mean, what I'm planning to do, I'm not going to build the traditional application into a reactive in O11. Instead, I am going to build that in ODC. So if I have to do it anyways, I would rather do it in ODC instead of doing rework on first in O11 and then doing it in ODC and testing in both the scenarios. So that's what I would suggest. But yeah, traditional cannot directly be going to ODC. You have to first transform it into reactive. Second one is share the PPTs. Yeah, okay. And I think we covered. That was
No,
the
no, it is in the Q&A section, not in the chat.
my bad, my
Yeah,
bad.
yeah.
There are 13. Some components, if we are still keeping in into O11 means both ODC and O11 license. Yeah, yeah, obviously. So coexistence means you have to keep your O11 license as well until all the applications are migrated to ODC. To ensure your applications are ready for ODC, what type of test your team perform? Are ready for ODC. So I mean, in terms of ready for ODC is totally up to you. Like, I mean, if you think you have very low technical debt and whatever is remaining, you can manage it into ODC later, then you are ready to go to ODC. I mean, there is no such testing like which can assure that, okay, you are ready for migration. Um, and O11 applications were already stable, so because they were on production, they were all on production already. So we did not have to test them again. Obviously, we had to test them when they migrated to ODC. How should updates to widgets and components be managed during the migration to updates to widgets and components? I did not guess this. I mean, this. I mean, if it is about, I did not get this question. Can you come again, please, Kashmira? In the meantime, I will try to answer the other one. What does it mean to move things to ODC? Is it like, yeah, yeah, we can copy and paste actually. And I was also surprised to see that. Are there any addition automated tools or scripts available to assist? No, nothing. Even OutSystems, if you look at OutSystems documentation, whatever material I shared today, even this is not available there. So, and they are restricting the access to certain documents now because they are working on the guidelines. If you go to OutSystems website, you will see that note that they are working on the guidelines. So the guidelines, the proper ones, like I mean, really detailed ones, are not yet available. But I mean, because we had to do it, we did it. How to deal if the forge component is not available, which is used in our, yeah. So you have to find a replacement. You have to develop your own, or like in our case, we tried to leverage the O11 forge component itself and then exchange the data through APIs. Estimated timeline for migration process, that depends totally upon how many applications you have in your O11 environment. So and also the technical debt that you have in your existing applications. Any sample video demo migrate data? I don't see any demo class forum or anything. So migration of data, they would not provide in, because see, I mean, data varies with application, right? So there would just be guidelines. Nobody is going to tell like how exactly, what query, what things they did. I mean, the best anyone can do is tell you the strategy. So yeah, so I don't think we can expect any videos like that. Will traditional app be directly migrated to ODC? No, you have to convert it into reactive first. BPT is no longer available, and what can be done to achieve it? So there are workflows available, but they are not. You cannot run multiple workflows simultaneously. So that is one drawback. So uh, please wait for OutSystems to provide a replacement of a BPT or a support for BPT in OutSystem or ODC environment. So you don't have a exact replacement available in ODC yet for BPT. In the shared ODC tenant, which is available for learning ISA, we cannot do this or say try this. In the shared ODC tenant, which is available for obviously learn that. Yeah, I mean you cannot. And yeah, there is no point in. So it's just for a hands-on in the ODC platform. So it's not actually for really to migrate the things in ODC. So it has its own limitation. The ODC tenant that we get is part of learning. Can we get trial ODC environment? Yeah, there. You can apply for it, and then they will provide you a version. I think it's available for 10 days or 2 weeks. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, it is available on demand. Can we able to migrate application? Answered already. How can you manage broad environment? Because during coexistence, mainly. So this is all planning. Like I mean, how you want to take your applications to production. So you have to stop that application which was in O11 and then tell the customer to start using a new one, and then before that migrate all the data from O11 application to ODC one. In that way, so if the application is turned off, then obviously the database is also turned off, right? Thanks for the insights. Hey, Kriti. Did you face any challenges with SQL Server? Yeah, SQL Server to Postgre, obviously, the syntaxes are different. So, but otherwise, in terms of performance and all, yeah, nothing as of now. Would Oracle DB be more challenging to migrate to Postgre? I don't think so. It's just the syntaxes. So, which is the case with SQL Server as well. So, syntaxes have to be adjusted anyways, whether it's SQL Server or Oracle. I will reach out to you for the question then. Okay, sure, Kashmira. Mukesh, is external logic in ODC support async in C sharp code? Is external logic in ODC support async in C sharp code? I did not get that. To implement asynchronous processing, should we create a separate app? Depends on the scenario. I mean, it's not something I can answer just in one sentence. So depends. I mean, maybe again, Mukesh, you can connect with me and explain the scenario. Then I might be able to suggest you the better approach to do that. Ideally, it's not like as for asynchronous process. Usually, for any data intensive things, yeah, there should be separate and dedicated applications doing the job, because ODC is more of a scalable thing, right? So if you need more capacity for an application, then it gets that container is scalable that way. So you can. So I mean, it's kind of easy to do the things in ODC environment. Scalability is a lot easier. But I mean, if you want to know more, we can connect separately. And so I am available there on ADP list. So if anybody wants to reach out and have a discussion, please feel free to do so. You can find me by my name, and feel free to set up a session. Yeah,
Yes, with that, thank you so much, Junaid, for a very informative session. It helped a lot for all the participants over here. And I see a hand raised by Akshay. I suggest you to connect with Junaid separately with the interest of time. So we'll move on to the next part of the session. I will take over the screen.
sure.
Yeah. Yes. So, yes, all the sessions, uh, all the events details, all the recorded sessions. So, you can find over the YouTube channel. So, we have our OutSystems user group, Bangalore OutSystems user group YouTube channel. So, wherein you will get all the recordings of the previous events, and also this video will also be uploaded over here. So for future reference, you can refer to it. And yes, coming to the most important part. So in order to improve the quality of our events in future, your feedback really matters for us. So please scan the QR code and take a moment in giving your valuable feedback in order to improve and to give you a very informative sessions in future as well. So with that, so I hope you will all give the feedback, and we'll move on to the interesting part of the event. So we'll start with the quiz. Okay. Yes. Um, okay, so this quiz is having a limitation of allowing only 60 participants. So first come, first serve. So you will be having 10 questions join in, and I appreciate you to give your full name to identify the winners correctly, and the correct winners will get the prize. And winners of this session will be, will be announced at the end, and they'll be eligible to get the prizes. And I repeat, the prizes can include, it might be a voucher as well. So don't miss the opportunity. I will put the link over here. You you need to join over the app. Yeah. So I'll give the 2 minutes to join in. And I see 33 joined. And let me know if you face any difficulty in joining the quiz. You will be getting 20 seconds for each question to answer. We will be having 10 questions. Okay, so with 47 joined, I'll be starting, and you can join in late as well, but maybe you will miss out one or two questions. So, starting the quiz. All the best, you guys. I see 17 of you have given the right answer. That's okay. Try hard for the next question. So, Rahul, Shipra, and Sachin stays at the top. 11 of you have given the right answer. Let's see who is at the top. Chetan, Sachin, and Mukesh. Let's go for the next question. That was a easy question, I guess. 37 of you have given the right answer. Who stays at the top? Mukesh, Siraj, and Sachin. Congratulations. Keep it up. 23 of you have given the right answer. Let's see the score. Mukesh, Sachin, and Chetan. 12 right answers. Mukesh, Chetan, and Raikanan. 31 of you have given the right answer. Chetan, Mukesh, and Garima. Chetan, Rahul, and Mukesh. Only 5 of you have given the right answer. Chetan, Mukesh, and Rahul. Two more questions, guys. All the best. 13 of you have given the right answer. Chetan, Rahul, and Mukesh. Last question. 23 of you have given the right answer. Oh, let's see the final scoring. Congratulations, Chetan. You stand at third place, Rahul for the second place, and Mukesh for the first place. Congratulations for all the winners. Again, I request all of you to, I mean, all the winners to stay in the call. I would need some of the information. And thanks a lot for all other participants for making out the time and joining our session. And you made it a successful one. And thanks a lot, Junaid. It was a very good session, very informative, very helpful.
Thank you so much, Shri, for the opportunity, and thank you everyone for joining the event. Look forward to see you all in future events.
Yes. Thank you. Thank you
Bye.
all.
Bye.
Have a good rest of the day. Bye. Thank you. Yes, with that, I request all the winners to put in your uh, contact number and also your email IDs to contact you for further details. And as I have already announced, it is mandatory to attend all the sessions of the masterclass to be eligible to win the prize. So don't forget, you have one and you are one step closer to get the prize. So I'm looking forward to have you in the two more sessions of this masterclass. So don't miss out the opportunity to be in the winner list. Okay. With that, I'm expecting the response from you three. You can DM me if you don't want to share over the comment chat. I would need your contact number and also the email ID, please. Uh, do you see a DM option? I got from Rahul. Thank you. And yes, to help you, Mukesh, you can go to the participant list if you see, and you can see my name and click on the three dots. You can DM, or else in the chat itself, I guess you will be no, in chat. You don't have, but you can share over chat if you cannot find the option to DM me. Yes, I got from Chetan. Thank you. Yes, I'm waiting for Mukesh.